Today's title, Atomic Habits, Summary plus Deep Life Applications. Chapter 1. The Invisible Force That Shapes Our Lives. They say we are what we repeatedly do, but when we think about changing our lives, we often set huge goals. Lose 20 kilos, become rich, learn 5 new skills, wake up at 5 a.m. every day. Big, bold goals. The kind that look great on vision boards and New Year's resolutions. But more often than not, they remain dreams. We don't fail because we lack ambition. We fail because we forget one truth. Real change doesn't come from goals. It comes from systems. The tiny things we do every single day. The Atomic Habits. When I first read Atomic Habits by James Clear, something inside me shifted. It didn't feel like one of those self-help books that try to sell motivation. It felt more like someone handing me a map and saying, "Here, this is how change really works." And not just big change. Quiet change. Change that doesn't scream but hums, like a soft drumbeat beneath your day. Atomic habits are small but mighty. They're like drops of water, seemingly harmless alone, but over time, they carve through stone. A small decision, drinking water instead of soda, going for a 5-minute walk, writing 1 paragraph a day, it might not seem like much, but stacked, day after day, it becomes identity. And identity? That becomes your destiny. Chapter 2. Why goals are overrated. Let's talk about goals for a second. It's not that they're useless. Goals give us direction, but they don't give us progress. Imagine 2 people with the exact same goal. Run a marathon. One of them puts a poster on the wall, buys fancy shoes, tells their friends. The other one? They just run a little bit every day. Guess who wins? It's never the one with the loudest goal. It's the one with the quietest system. James Clear makes a profound point in the book. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That line hit me like thunder. I realized I had been setting goals my whole life without changing the daily systems that would get me there, like expecting to grow a tree without ever watering the soil. So, if you're listening to this thinking, I've set goals and failed 1,000 times, let this be your moment of grace. You didn't fail because you weren't good enough. You just didn't have the right system. And the beautiful part? Systems are small. Systems are doable. Systems start today. Chapter 3. The Power of 1% Improvements. Now imagine improving by just 1% every day. Just 1%. Maybe you write a single sentence more than yesterday. Maybe you meditate for 1 extra minute. Maybe you say no to 1 small distraction. At first it looks like nothing, but over a year, those 1% changes compound. They don't add up, they multiply. And that's the hidden magic of atomic habits. We often underestimate the power of time. We think change should be fast, visible, dramatic. But growth is rarely loud. Growth is slow, steady, and sometimes invisible. Just like ice melting at 0 degrees Celsius to 1 degree Celsius. You don't see the change until suddenly it shifts. And when it does, everything flows. So don't chase intensity. Chase consistency. Don't try to write a book in 1 weekend. Just write every day. Don't try to become a yogi in a week. Just show up on the mat, even if it's for 5 minutes. Over time, those small actions will build something remarkable. They'll build you. Chapter 4. Identity-Based Habits. Becoming the person you want to be. This might be the most life-changing idea in Atomic Habits. Don't focus on what you want to achieve. Focus on who you wish to become. The goal is not to read 20 books. The goal is to become a reader. The goal isn't to lose weight. The goal is to become someone who chooses health. And once your habits are rooted in identity, they become automatic. Here's how it works. Every small action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. If you write today, you cast a vote for being a writer. If you work out, you vote for being an athlete. These votes slowly change how you see yourself. And once you believe in a new identity, the habits follow naturally. You're not forcing yourself, you're just being who you are. This isn't just habit building. This is soul-level transformation. Because once you change your identity, your life follows. You begin to think differently, choose differently, even love differently. You don't chase change anymore. You become it. Chapter 5. How Habits Are Formed. The 4 Laws. James Clear breaks down every habit into 4 simple steps. Cue, craving, response, and reward. Think of it like a loop. A habit starts with a cue. something that triggers it. Then comes the craving. Your brain desires a change in state. Next is the response, the actual behavior. And finally, the reward, the reason your brain wants to do it again. Let's say your phone buzzes. That's the cue. You feel the urge to check it. Craving. You pick it up and open Instagram. Response. You see likes and messages. Reward. Your brain remembers that loop and repeats it next time. Now, the secret to building better habits? Use these 4 steps in your favor. Make the cue obvious. Make the craving attractive. Make the response easy. Make the reward satisfying. For example, if you want to read more, place the book on your pillow. That's an obvious cue. Make the book short and fun. Attractive craving. Commit to just 2 pages. Easy response. And after reading, check it off a habit tracker. Satisfying reward. Habits aren't just discipline. They're design. And once you understand the loop, you can design your life in a way that gently pulls you toward the person you want to be. Chapter 6. Breaking bad habits without breaking yourself. Let's talk about the habits we want to let go of. The ones we're not proud of. Scrolling mindlessly. Procrastinating. Binge eating. Overthinking. These habits aren't just bad, they're comforting. That's why they're hard to break. They've been with us in moments of stress, loneliness, or boredom. So before you try to cut them out like weeds, pause. Be gentle with yourself. Understand that bad habits aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of unmet needs. James Clear doesn't just give us theory. He gives us tools. He shows us that if habits are formed by cues, cravings, responses, and rewards, then bad habits follow the same loop. So, the key isn't to punish yourself. The key is to redesign the loop. Let's say you want to stop checking your phone in bed. The cue might be boredom. The craving? Mental stimulation. The response? Scrolling. The reward? A short burst of dopamine. Now, if we want to break this, we don't just cut the phone. We replace the loop. Maybe you replace the phone with a physical book beside your pillow. You satisfy the craving for stimulation, but with something gentle, something good. Over time, the craving starts shifting. The habit becomes reading, not scrolling. That's how change happens, not with force, but with substitution, with kindness. And here's another thing. Remove the cue. If junk food is your bad habit, don't keep it in the house. If procrastination comes from clutter, clear your workspace. Don't fight temptation, avoid it. Make bad habits invisible, unattractive, hard, and unsatisfying. That's the flip of the 4 laws. And when you do that, you stop fighting yourself. You start freeing yourself. Chapter 7. Environment. The invisible hand that shapes your habits. One of the most underrated truths in the book is this. We don't rise to the level of our motivation. We fall to the level of our environment. Your habits are not just about willpower. They're about the space around you. Let's take 2 people. One wants to eat healthy, but has chips on the counter. The other has apples and water within arm's reach. Who's more likely to stay healthy? It's not a question of discipline. It's design. Our environment sends us constant signals. Sit here, check this, eat that, and we don't even notice it. That's why James Clear says, environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. If you want better habits, start by shaping the spaces you live in. Want to journal every morning? Keep a notebook beside your bed. Want to drink more water? Keep a bottle on your desk. Want to quit social media? Log out and delete the apps from your home screen. It sounds simple, but it works, because your brain always takes the path of least resistance. So make good habits easy. Make bad habits hard. And here's something beautiful. You don't need a fancy house or studio. Just a corner. A small ritual space. A chair that becomes your writing spot. A mug that becomes your reading cup. A playlist that becomes your focus mode. Your environment is not just physical. It's sensory, emotional, habitual. And when you own it, you don't just build habits. You build a sanctuary. Chapter 8. Motivation is overrated. It's about showing up. There's a myth we've all believed, that we need to feel motivated to take action. But the truth? Action creates motivation, not the other way around. Think about the days you didn't want to go for a walk, but you stepped out anyway, and then felt great after. Or the times you didn't feel like writing, but forced yourself to type a few lines, and soon, you were in the flow. That's because movement leads to momentum. Clarity comes from doing, not thinking. James Clear explains that the key isn't to wait for the perfect mood. It's to create a system so simple, so doable, that even on your worst day, You can show up, not your best, just your minimum. There's a concept in the book called the 2-minute rule. It says, any habit should start with something that takes less than 2 minutes. Want to run? Start by tying your shoes. Want to read? Open the book and read 1 page. Want to meditate? Just sit down and breathe. Why? Because the hardest part is starting. Once you start, the rest flows. And even if you stop after 2 minutes, you've kept your identity intact. You've proven to yourself, I'm someone who shows up. That's the kind of self-trust that builds over time. That's the muscle that keeps you moving when motivation fades. So the next time you don't feel like it, don't wait. Start small. Start anyway. Chapter 9. Mastering the Plateau, the Valley of Boredom. Here's the part most people don't talk about, the middle, the phase after the excitement but before the results. It's called the plateau of latent potential, where you're doing the right things, but nothing seems to be changing. This is where most people quit. Not because they're lazy, but because progress feels invisible. You've been eating well for weeks, but the weight won't budge. You've been writing every morning, but your words feel dull. You've been working out, but the mirror doesn't change. And in that silence, doubt creeps in. But James Clear says something powerful. Complaining about not getting results despite working hard is like complaining about an ice cube not melting when you heated it from 25 to 31 degrees. Change was happening all along. You just couldn't see it until suddenly, at 32 degrees, the ice melts and everything shifts. So don't quit in the quiet. Don't give up in the valley. That's where the real growth brews. Keep showing up. Keep stacking the days. Because one day, without warning, the results will come, and it won't be magic. It'll be momentum. This is the difference between amateurs and professionals. Amateurs show up when they feel inspired. Professionals show up even when it's boring, especially when it's boring, because they know the plateau is not punishment. It's preparation. Chapter 10. Real-life habit transformations, stories that inspire. Let's bring this all home. Not in theory, but in real life. Let me tell you about a guy who struggled with being overweight for most of his life. He didn't jump into extreme diets. He started with a single rule: no soda. That's it. Every day, he just skipped soda. Months later, he added 15-minute walks. Then slowly, he cut sugar, started cooking, began lifting. 2 years later, he was down 40 kilos. And it didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like becoming someone new. Or the young girl who wanted to be a writer. But she was scared. Scared of judgment. Scared of failure. So she made a deal with herself. Write 1 paragraph a day, no matter what. That paragraph became a page. The page became a chapter. 3 years later, she self-published her novel. Not because she had a breakthrough, but because she had a habit. These are not extraordinary people. They are ordinary people who chose small changes and stuck with them. That's the beauty of atomic habits. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of yourself, one habit at a time. You're not broken. You're just between systems. And once you start changing the small things, the big things follow. Quietly, gently, inevitably. Chapter 11. The Power of Tracking. Make progress visible. Imagine waking up one day feeling like nothing's working, like all your effort is invisible. That's the silent killer of motivation. But what if you could see your progress? Feel your wins? That's where habit tracking comes in. James Clear isn't asking you to become a robot with a checklist. He's asking you to give your brain what it craves. Evidence of progress. There's something deeply satisfying about putting an X on a calendar, crossing off a day, ticking a habit. It's simple, but powerful. Habit tracking gives you a signal. You showed up today. You honored your future self. You didn't just think about it, you did it. That builds confidence. Day by day, tick by tick, you see a chain forming. And the goal becomes simple. Don't break the chain. It's like a garden. At first, nothing grows. But each time you water, you're proving you care. And over time, those invisible roots will burst into visible results. The key is to make tracking effortless. Use a journal, a sticky note, a whiteboard, an app. It doesn't matter how. What matters is that your progress has a home, a space where your effort lives, where your identity gets reinforced. And when you miss a day, no guilt, just restart. One of James Clear's rules is never miss twice. Missing once is human. Missing twice is a new habit. So when life interrupts, you don't quit. You return. Tracking isn't about control. It's about reminding. reminding you that small actions still matter, that even when it feels like nothing's changing, something is. You are. Chapter 12. Accountability. You are who you rise with. Sometimes, willpower isn't enough. Sometimes, we need people. Accountability isn't about someone yelling at you. It's about someone believing in you, enough to remind you of who you said you wanted to be. Whether it's a friend, a coach, or a tiny online group of strangers chasing the same dream, when someone's watching, we tend to rise. James Clear shares that having a partner increases the likelihood of sticking to habits dramatically.
Why?
Because it brings social motivation. You don't want to let someone down, especially not the version of yourself that you promised. Imagine this. You agree with a friend that you'll both meditate every morning at 6 a.m. You text each other, done after each session. Simple, right? But powerful, because you know someone's waiting. And that small accountability turns "I'll try" into "I'll show up." And there's another layer, identity accountability. When you declare who you are, you start living up to it. When you say, "I'm a runner," you're more likely to run. When you say, "I'm a writer," you're more likely to write.
Why?
Because we are deeply loyal to our own self-image, and that image becomes clearer when it's seen by others. So find someone who believes in your habits. Join a community. Make a commitment. Accountability doesn't limit your freedom. It strengthens your discipline. It helps you rise. Chapter 13. Make habits irresistible. The secret of craving. Here's a truth about the human brain. It's always chasing what feels good. And the reason some habits stick isn't because they're healthy. It's because they feel rewarding in the moment. James Clear explains how craving is the spark. It's the emotional pull that precedes action. So if you want a habit to stick, you don't just need it to be good. You need it to feel good. That's where the secret lies. Bundle it with pleasure. Let's say you want to walk every morning, but you dread it. Try this. Only let yourself listen to your favorite podcast while walking. That way, your brain starts associating walking with something joyful. That's called temptation bundling, and it works. Or, if you want to journal more, do it with a cup of coffee in your favorite corner with your favorite candle lit. Turn it into a ritual, a moment,
a vibe.
We often try to build habits like we're building punishment. I have to wake up early, go to the gym, eat broccoli. But what if habits became moments of joy? Micro vacations in our day? Make your habits so rich, so delightful, that your brain starts craving them. That's how you turn effort into eagerness, pain into pleasure, tasks into treats. This isn't about tricking yourself. It's about respecting your psychology. You're not a machine. You're a soul with feelings. So design your habits to feel good, not just be good. Chapter 14. The power of resilience. When life breaks your routine. Life won't always cooperate. You'll fall sick. You'll feel tired. You'll face grief, heartbreak, deadlines, or just plain laziness. And in those seasons, habits will feel fragile. They'll feel like the last thing on your mind. This is where most systems break. But James Clear gives us a gift. Permission to be human. He tells us that consistency is not perfection. It's recovery. It's bounce-back speed. The real question isn't, did you break your habit? It's, how quickly did you return? Think of habits like brushing your teeth. You've missed a night or two in your life, but you never stopped brushing forever.
Why?
Because you see yourself as someone who brushes. The habit is part of your identity. That's resilience. Resilience is built in the moments when you don't feel like it, but still do a tiny version. One push-up, one sentence, one deep breath. These tiny acts protect the identity you've worked hard to build. And more than that, they give you grace. Grace that says, even when I fall, I return. That's not failure. That's mastery. So when life throws you off, and it will, come back gently. Shrink the habit. Strip it down. Do the smallest possible version. Because even when you can't run, you can still crawl forward. And crawling is still movement. Still progress. Chapter 15. Designing your future self. Living by intent. At the heart of this book, beneath the science, the systems, the strategies, lies a deeper message. You are not stuck. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by your choices, your patterns, your habits. Every tiny action is a vote for the kind of person you want to be. A vote for your future self. James Clear doesn't just want you to build habits. He wants you to design your life consciously. That means looking forward and asking, who do I want to be in 5 years? And then reverse engineering that person's daily routines. You want to be calm? Meditate for 2 minutes today. You want to be strong? Move your body today. You want to be wise? Read for 10 minutes today. That's how futures are built. Not in leaps, but in layers. And here's the magic. As you build the habit builds you. Every repetition rewires your brain. Every repetition reinforces your identity. You're not faking it. You're forming it. And this is not about hustle. It's about harmony. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become more of the you that you already are, buried beneath distractions, doubt, and disorganization. The future self isn't far away. It's one habit away, one decision away, one quiet morning where you choose to show up for yourself, even when no one's watching. Chapter 16. The Goldilocks Zone. When challenge meets skill. There's a moment in habit building when it all just clicks, when you're doing something hard enough to grow, but not so hard that you give up. That sweet spot is called the Goldilocks Zone. Too easy? You're bored. Too hard? You're anxious. Just right? You're in flow. James Clear explains that when you operate in that zone, where the task stretches you but doesn't snap you, time disappears. You feel alive, fully present. That's the magic of sustainable growth. Imagine learning a song on the piano. If it's too simple, you zone out. Too hard, you feel frustrated. But if it's just above your current level, you lean in. You engage. You grow. That's the sweet spot. Habits should live there too. Don't start with writing a novel. Start with 1 paragraph a day. Don't try meditating for 60 minutes. Begin with 2. Build up. Let your habits meet you where you are and gently lead you to who you're becoming. Growth should feel challenging, not punishing. When you stay in the Goldilocks zone, you stop quitting because the process feels good. And what feels good gets repeated. Chapter 17. The downside of good habits. When automation becomes apathy. Let's be honest. Not every habit stays magical. What starts as exciting can become automatic. And what becomes automatic can also become mindless. James Clear warns about the plateau of latent potential. That place where we stop improving, not because we can't, but because we've stopped paying attention. We've stopped being intentional. That's the downside of habits. They can become autopilot. You might go to the gym, but stop pushing yourself. You might meditate daily, but zone out. You might read books, but forget what you read. The answer? Reflection, review, refinement. Every few weeks or months, look at your habits like a coach would. Ask, is this habit still aligned with my goals? Am I just going through the motions? Can I stretch it slightly to grow again? Use what James calls a habit scorecard. Rate your habits, keep the helpful, drop the harmful, upgrade the outdated. Habits aren't meant to be permanent. They're meant to be adaptive. They're tools, not prisons. And the more conscious you stay, the more power you hold. Don't become a slave to yesterday's version of you. Stay awake in your own life. Stay responsive. Stay in tune. Chapter 18. The truth about mastery. Falling in love with boredom. Here's a hard truth. The path to greatness is boring. James Clear says the difference between professionals and amateurs isn't talent. It's that professionals keep showing up, even when it's boring. Anyone can be motivated on day 1 or day 10. But what about day 147, when it's raining and you're tired and nobody's clapping? That's where most people quit. And that's where mastery begins. The real secret? Fall in love with boredom. Find poetry in repetition. Discover freedom in discipline. Not every workout will feel thrilling. Not every journaling session will be profound. Not every habit will spark joy. But over time, those boring reps become bricks. And those bricks become cathedrals. Consistency beats intensity. Over and over again. Because the world isn't changed by people who start big, but by people who don't stop. So embrace the dull moments. Love the process. Show up not because it's always exciting, but because you've decided to be someone who shows up. That's power. That's mastery. That's magic. Chapter 19. Avoiding the identity trap. Don't get stuck in a story. Sometimes we become too attached to who we think we are. We turn habits into cages. I'm not a morning person. I'm not athletic. I'm bad with money. I can't cook. Sound familiar? James Clear urges us to stay flexible with identity, Because the moment we say, "This is who I am," we risk rejecting change. Growth feels like betrayal, but in truth, it's transformation. Your identity should evolve. The person you were last year should not be the person you are next year. That's not failure. That's the point. You're not a tree. You're a river, always flowing, always changing. So when a habit no longer serves you, drop it. When a goal feels stale, release it. You are not obligated to be the same version of yourself that made past decisions. Identity should be a compass, not a cage. Let go of the pride that says, "This is just who I am." Let your habits support your freedom, not your ego. Stay open, stay curious, stay new. Chapter 20, From Habits to Legacy, Building a Life That Echoes. At the end of it all, habits are not about productivity. They're about possibility. James Clear didn't write this book to help you wake up at 5 a.m. or hit the gym daily. He wrote it to help you reclaim your agency, to realize that your life is malleable, that greatness isn't born, it's repeated. Your habits are seeds, and one day, they grow into trees that others will sit under. Maybe your child sees you read every night and falls in love with books. Maybe your partner starts eating healthier because you cook with care. Maybe a stranger watches your journey and thinks, "If they can do it, maybe I can too." This is legacy, not fame, not followers, but ripples, quiet echoes of your consistency showing up in places you'll never even see. So ask yourself, what kind of ancestor do I want to be? Because that's what you are, not just a person in motion, but a life being watched, modeled, mirrored. Your habits aren't just shaping you, they're shaping the world around you.